All right, hey guys, this is Jessica with the AB Mask Project, I guess, as we're calling it here. Um, Wanted to thank everyone for the outpouring of support that we've had over the last couple days. It's been incredible. Like I said, I apologize for the confusion in the pattern. I am not a seamstress or pattern writer. I'm an ER nurse, and so I did my best. I wanted to share my updated pattern with you all and make a instructional video, hoping to clarify some of the steps. So we're going to start here. This is going to be just the updated pattern that will be available online. I printed it out. I tried to color code as well. Oh yeah, by the way, my kids are at home, so I apologize for the background noise. We're going to cut this pattern out on the fold. The cut line is in blue. The lines or areas where we're going to stitch are in red, and then the kind of pleats or folds are marked in green. So yeah, if you're going to want to print this pattern out, I did cut two pieces already. Because of the importance of having a front to the mask and an inside lining, just to decrease any chance of contamination, I am using a different fabric for the inside of the mask. So this honeybee heart print is going to be the inside of the mask, and then the navy blue will be the outside. So I cut those out from my pattern. Let's see if I can get up close. I also used just a colored pencil that I snagged from my kid's stash. It seems to work pretty well on the fabric. As you can see, I marked the top dart. If you can see that in green. I also cut the markings so I know where to fold and iron my pleats. And then, like I said, I cut the most inner marking on the pattern, and then, well, I guess I marked them both and then cut one. So the reason we're cutting along the bottom with this pattern is it allows us to fold it up and make a slot for a pocket between the two layers. So the option of putting in some sort of filter, and we'll talk more about that later. The other thing you want to make sure you have cut out is this is 1 3/4 inch, which increase the width a little bit. Just makes it a little easier to work with. Also, because we're adding a nose piece on this pattern, an aluminum nose piece, and the 1 1/2 inch binding was just a little too small. So 1 3/4 inch, and you want to sew it in on each side. 1/4 inch, and then again you can also press in half, and this will just make your sewing go a lot easier when you go to put it together. So this total width of the binding, once all your pleats are in, should be 1/2 inch across. So we need 3 strips of that, at least 2 that are 42 inches, the standard width of most fabrics, and then we'll need about 8 inches from a third to bind the sides of the mask. This is double fold bias tape that you can pre-purchase from any craft store. It does make the mask go a lot faster. However, it is cut on the bias and it's much stretchier. So I found that I wasn't able to get as good of a seal or fit with the pre-made stuff than with just the cotton cut along the grain. So this takes a little bit more work, but I do really think it helps the mask fit to the face a little bit better, because you can really crank down on it. And when I used the pre-made stuff, it just stretched a little bit more than I wanted it to. And then finally, this is something I found at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's. It is 1/4 inch aluminum wire. So it's 1/4 inch wide. It's like $4. It's the roll we've been cutting them off of. And you want to just cut yourself a 4-inch strip using some wire cutters. A lot of my friends have been getting super creative with this. We've been using the double ties to that are used across coffee roaster bags, different jewelry supplies, hairpins even. This is the closest I could find that you can just buy over the counter or order online easily. That is similar to what we use in the professional grade PPE. All right, so I think I went over all the materials and what you're going to need to get ready. Hopefully explain the pattern to everyone. And now is time to get. All right, so now we're going to start sewing this mask together. So I have the inside and the outside piece lined up. I will say this step can be skipped once you get a hang of it. It saves you maybe 30 seconds. But I do find that it holds the two pieces together a little better when you're first figuring out the pattern. So using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, I'm just going to run stitches down each side, the left and the right side of the mask, the inside, and this will be the outside. So what we're going to do is start with the outside down, and we want the top of the mask, this part up here, pointing away from us. And what you want to do is find the first cuts on the sides, so the very top cuts on each left and right, and then you just fold a seam over so there is a straight line between those two cuts. Just take the iron and press. And then I flip it over so it's right side up, and I find the line between, if you can see this, the next little marking down. I want to line those two up, and I want to fold it towards me so that the front of the mask, the pleats are facing downwards, okay? So if you can see that, I find the next two lines, try to create a straight line in between the two on the left, the one on the left, the one on the right, and then press again. And then we'll just repeat that throughout for the 3 different pleats. So then you find, face down, flip it back over, so the front of the mask is down. You find the next cut, so the third cut on the left, the third cut on the right, fold it over, press, flip the mask around, find the next cut on the left, line it up with the next cut on the right, fold it down, press. And then we'll just repeat that for the last pleat. All right, guys, so after repeating that 3 times, we should have our pleats ironed in. We're going to do one more step here. This is not essential, but it will save you time and hassle later on. So on the inside of the mask, we want to take this middle section. So we snipped along that green line, I believe it is on the pattern. And we want to just fold the inside layer under, creating a, what is that, 1/4 inch, Mom? Like 1/2 inch hem. So yeah, we should have cut up in the fabric 1/2 inch. So you just want to tuck that fabric under and press that hem in place. So that is what it should look like, because that will be the pocket. Just a minute, sweetie. That'll be the pocket where we can put in a vacuum bag HEPA filter or whatever you choose. All right, guys, so we have ironed in our pleats. We've also ironed in the hem for the pocket. So I'm gonna switch the machine to just a little zigzag strip that's maybe a 1/4 inch wide, and you totally don't have to do that. You could just use a regular straight stitch, but and I'm gonna want to just hem that pleat up. Just want to make sure that the mask, the front part of the mask is tucked up and away from your machine because we're not sewing anything shut. So we're just sewing on the inside right now. So back stitch to start, and just run that along the edge. And then end it with a back stitch. And then there you go. So now we have a hemmed edge. And now what I'm going to do is stitch in our pleats. So again, just 1/2 inch on the side. Make sure to change your machine back to a straight stitch. And we're going to hem those pleats in place. Just be a little careful when you're going over the pleats that the bottom feed foot, if you have one, doesn't mess those up. So sometimes I have to lift my foot up a little bit and reposition because it tends to sometimes I want to pull them back flat. So we'll do that on one side. And then we will flip it around and just run down, stitch down the pleats on the other side. All right, so, whoops. My grandma would be upset that I'm not cutting my strings right away. So now the hem, or the pleats, I'm sorry, the mask pleats are stitched in, and our hem on the inside is stitched in. And next we're going to sew our top darts. The marks I made, it should be in green. It's not coming up very well on the camera. Let's try on this one. The marks I made in green, I just pin this in place. You want to make sure you're folding across your middle line, and then I'm going to stitch down the pattern. Or I'm sorry, stitch down just along the markings. This is different than the original version of the AB mask, as far as doing a stitch on the inside and doing a stitch on the outside, but it does cut down on the amount of raw edges you have, and it allows us to insert a filter that goes all the way to the top of the mask, as opposed to having to go around a seam that goes right over your nose. All right, so take my pins out. I have the top darts sewn on both inside and outside. You can flip it around and see. So inside of the mask, outside, and then I think it's a good idea to just couch your seams. So basically, you could trim these down, or I would just have one go one way, one go the other, and then that way that seam lines up really nicely.